We're back for another exciting episode of Horse Plus Podcast, and today I have Garrick, and our longtime fans and people who watch us are going to know who you are, possibly by your wit, your humor, maybe by your drink of choice. I'm not sure how they'll remember you, but Garrick did what for us for years?
I was the farrier here for a long time and got to meet a lot of interesting people, a lot of employees that were here before and the new ones that are here now, and some of them aren't new, some of them have been here a while, but you've always getting to meet new people when you come in, and different vets and all, and getting to talk to everybody. It's you never know.
Yeah.
So
it was years ago. Do you remember how you heard about Horse Plus, like what your thought was? I'm sure you'd seen horse rescues before.
Well, when it first started, I remember seeing some donation jars in his Plus Humane Society, and it was at different feed stores and stuff. And I was like, what is that? You know, because I'm not a big media person. I'm not online. You know, I get my wife gets on to me for Facebook, so you know, I'm just no country boy. But that's how I've and then I got to questioning what is that? Of course, you live in a small town, people know, and it's out there off Charles McLaren, you know where that old farm was, and so I was like, well, I'll just ride out there and see what's going on. So, you know, I just kind of fell into that, and I remember it was really funny because I do some transporting, and Tony said, "So you transport?" I was like, "Yeah," and I always call it hauling. We hauling, you know, we hauling stock, and so it was like a week later. I think it was Angela that called me and said we have a donkey in Mount Pleasant. I went over and picked the donkey up, and I pulled up. I was like, "Hey, I got your donkey. You've got the donkey?" I was like, "Oh, that wasn't the right way to do it." So, you know, you learn, and with the surrender papers and all, and of course me, they wanted a donkey, so I went and got the donkey.
There you go.
You know, but it's fun. I mean, and with that, with the transporting side, you get to see where a lot of these horses, when they're surrendered, most cases are something with a family that's happened. They can't keep the horse and they want it to go somewhere where somebody enjoy it and have it. So they send it here. And I don't run into a lot of bad cases with horses like that. Most time they're well cared for. And of course, when they're brought here, they're evaluated and checked out and run through their ringer here. They literally run through the ringer. But I get to meet those people. And I get to hear the stories behind the horses. You know, it's not just go get the horse and leave. And you get to meet them and hear a little bit of history about the horse and whatever's happened with their family. And 98.9% of these people are really hating to give it up. They don't want to let the horse go. But they know Horse Plus is the best place for it. So,
well, that's actually been our experience too, is when people are in a position where they do have to surrender their animal, it's usually because they don't want to. And it's really, I always said it's the hardest when I have to go to a middle-aged woman's house and take her animal because it's so emotional for her. And it's always, you know, it's always a positive thing when they realize they can't continue providing for this animal and they are finding a good solution for it rather than just, you know, shipping it to a slaughter auction or something of that sort.
I totally get it because our animals at home, they're like family, you know, and if you're going to have animals, you're going to have things happen to them. And that's just part of animals. I mean, you're going to have to go see the vet sooner or later for something. And, you know, we keep our dogs inside, they're spoiled and all, and horses have blankets on them and they're brought in and they're brought out. And I think they're more confused than the weather is because why aren't we putting blankets back on? Okay. You know, so it's just something. And then the feed program, and Sydney, my daughter, she's got everything. They have to have this and this and this. And I'm like, you know, back in the old days, we didn't do all that. We just gave them a little grain and wished them luck. And well, they're losing weight, so we'll pour some more to them. And the feed has revolutionized over the years. And what they've done with the feed is they brought a lot of vets in with the feed. And so these vets are studying these horses and they're studying their guts and they're studying how they're digesting the feed. So it's not wasted feed. And, you know, it's amazing how it's come along over the years.
Oh, yeah.
My granddaddy, he had a corn crib and he would feed horses and cattle and hogs and he'd feed them ears of corn.
Sure.
We didn't go to town and buy feed and have specialty items. And it's just amazing how things have revolutionized.
You mean he didn't analyze the corn cobs for crude protein? And oh, okay. And his animal survived?
They believe it or not, they done really well. But in those times, those were different type of animals for, like, we didn't have a separation of this horse is for this horse is for that, and different breeds. It was, we're going to use this horse, and it was a tool. Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. You know.
No, and I mean, the science behind feeding is amazing, and I've studied that a little bit, and I do think it's intriguing how different feeds help different animals over certain situations, and especially like refeeding for an emaciated horse and things like that are very fascinating. But so you transported, that kind of got your foot in the door, and then you started doing farrier work for us?
Yeah, Tony was like, "Oh, you trim horses?" I was like, "Oh, I messed up there."
You should have said no at the time.
So, yeah, and I still shoe a few horses. I've got about 10, I think, now that I do. And I try to stay away. I've been doing it since I was 18-year-old, and 26 years later, I'm hurting. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I can't do this forever, so I'm just going to cut back. I enjoy doing it. I love to do it. And it's an art, to take a bad foot and clean it up. And it takes a lot of patience on the horse side, and you have to be patient with the animals. And, I see a lot of young guys, when they pick a horse's foot up, the first thing they do is they pick the horse's foot up and they scoot it out. Well, all they're doing is rotating the shoulder or the back hip out and making the horse uncomfortable. And I'm like, you gotta give a little to get a little. So you have to be uncomfortable sometimes for that animal, and it makes your job a lot easier in the long run. And but you learn these things over time, and then a light bulb moment comes on, and you're going, oh wow, if I would have just lowered that foot just 3 inches, it would have made a world of difference. But you live and learn those things. Yeah. Some things you can't be taught; you just have to trial and error. But with the horseshoeing side, I've been fortunate enough to be able to go to a ton of different rodeos and shoe, and you get to see so many different horses, and and I've done a bunch of horses just in this area, different counties around here. And one time I had over 300 head around here just locally. So
that's a lot of
that tells you how many horses are actually here. Yeah, there's a lot, and most people are pretty much keep me on schedule, and then springtime hits, and that's when they really all call. So
do you feel like the horse community is increasing or decreasing, or kind of just staying the same here locally?
Locally, I think it's about average. Okay. I think our young people are not as involved in it as they once were. And a lot of that's got to do with social media, and there's different things going on. We never had soccer. Well, we got soccer now. It's a small town. We didn't have a lot to offer, so everybody had a horse, so everybody rode horses. The what they call the old country boy horse show, that went away. And what came after that was the cowboy churches. So the cowboy churches, they started doing their little rodeos at their churches, and they don't care if you have a saddle horse, if you've got a walking horse or a hunter jumper. It doesn't matter. They just want everybody to come and have fun. There you go. And it wasn't about the competition. It was about coming together and fellowship. Sure. And that brought a lot of people back into it. Okay. And I watched this over the last 15 years. And I went to several of these little cowboy churches with the girls when they were small. And that's where we got them going in the rodeo. We done the country boy with the lead line and the ponies and all. But that was a place where a kid could come in. It didn't matter what they were riding. It didn't matter who you were. And you could have fun and you could compete. And it wasn't expensive. Sure. And that's, money revolves around everything. It costs money. It does. And, so that was a time where I seen that community, the horse community, it started coming back. Okay. And I was watching a lot of these gaited horses because the country boy show was more gaited than anything. Sure. A lot of these people that competed in these country boy shows, and they would ride for a ribbon. It was like $5 to enter a class, and you get a ribbon. Okay. They started coming, and they're like, man, we got to get a quarter horse. So quarter horses blew up. And they come back. Before, around here in this area, nobody wanted a quarter horse. Sure. Well, I wouldn't ride one of those old rough things, But it changed. And so once they got to competing with these cowboy church rodeos, they were like, we need a horse that can do this. And now quarter horses have really come back, and breakaway roping is huge. Everything runs through fads. So, 10 years from now, who knows what it'll be.
Yeah.
But I wish I knew, because I would get ahead of it.
I know cowboy mounted shooting and cowboy mounted archery is something that a lot of people do.
That's a huge deal. And, there's a lot to be said about rodeos, the competition side of any equestrian event. And the thing about it is, if you're going to haul these animals and you're going to compete on these animals, they have to be, number one, in shape, because they stress from the moment you put a snap on them to the moment you turn them loose. When you take them out of their environment and you haul them down the road, you can imagine riding down the road in a trailer back there, and you have to slam on the brakes for somebody in front of you, and that horse is feeling all that. And then you unload him at an event, and there's lights and there's people and there's music or whatever's going on. So he's used to standing in the pasture and just everything's great, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like me walking in here and here we are. I don't do, what do we call this, podcast?
Podcast.
I don't do this every day. So, but you think about that horse and all these people that go to these shows and they do these things, no matter if it's a horse show or if it's a rodeo or whatever, these animals have to be fed. They have to be conditioned. They have to be properly trained. And if they're not, you're never going to do any good.
Right.
And you put yourself and your horse at a safety risk. So with all that, it takes a lot of work and time. And there are people that hate rodeo. There's people that hate hunter jumper. There's people that hate horse shows, whatever. And here's my look on it. I don't hate any of it as long as they're taking care of that animal.
Yeah.
And he's the best. His welfare is number one. But if he's not, you're never going to be any good anyway.
There you go.
But that is huge in those events. And a lot of these people and I say all that because a lot of these people that come from years ago country boy shows, when they started competing at these cowboy church rodeos, they realized, I can't just show here once a month. I've got to work at this. And my horse has got to get better, because I don't have a chance. So it was really good. It was an eye-opener. A lot of people just kick their horse out in the field and then, I'm a weekend warrior, I ride. And that's great. But how would you feel if you went to the weight room once a month and then you got pounded on? You're going to be hurting.
Well, you're not going to win a competition now, are you?
I mean, you have to prepare, and that's in anything. But I'm always preaching to Sydney, you're only as good as your horse, because the horse is getting you there. So if you don't have that animal performing and doing what you want it to get you a shot, you don't have a chance.
Yeah.
We were out the other night and we were working the horse, and everybody thinks roping is all about running wide open and all this stuff. And it's not. We do what we call a regroup. So I have a dummy that I pull with a four-wheeler, and we have a roping pen and lights and all. We go out there at night because y'all work too late. It's ridiculous how much they work here. It's crazy. Who works to 6:30? Good. I quit. I couldn't do it. Well, so we get out there.
We do like our Friday, Saturday, and Sundays off.
You do have a good schedule. I'll give you that. So I'm like, it's 7:30 is about my bedtime. We got a rope. So we get out there and we don't run wide open. And she works her horse in the box, in the roping box. She walks it in quietly. She turns it around. She backs in the corner, makes the horse settle before she ever asks it to do anything. And there's so much involved in that. But when she goes to a rodeo and she ropes a calf in 1.8 seconds, it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
But people don't see what goes on during the week to get to that point. And like working with these horses here, you can watch the videos and you watch a 45-minute segment or whatever. That's just a glimpse of what actually is going on here. It takes so much to get that horse ready for adoption. So many hours are spent, people don't realize, but those that do, they get it. And thank you to those that do take the time. Yeah. And we don't like a horse that's hot, otherwise blowed up. And I want the horse to be relaxed and know its job and be solid. And that's with anything I'm doing, trail riding or whatever. Sure. But that's the way we train, and we slow it down because the horse knows her job. Okay. Even our young horses, we start out slow and we work them into it slow. And once we get them to that point to where they have figured out, okay, this is my job, we can speed things up, but we don't go wide open. We slowly work it up, and it makes your horse so solid.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference, but transporting and all, and there's so much into that transporting. I brought some horses back from Colorado Springs, and people like, man, how'd you haul them that far? Well, when you haul, you have to stop, let them rest. Mm-hmm. They're back there riding in a trailer down the road, and depending on how hot or cold it is, whether you're blankets or not, and it's a challenge.
Yep. No, for sure. And that is one thing back to the rodeo, competing and breakaway roping, things like that. One thing I always look at from a humane perspective is how long is the animal able to do its competition before it breaks down? Because if an animal isn't being abused, then it shouldn't break down, right? So I look at barrel racers. There's horses in their 20s.
Yeah.
Competing on a national level in barrel racing. And I'm sure roping is the same way. And then you look at say the big lick, and at 2 to 3 years old, they're often broken down.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, if you're going to take a horse and you're going to put all this money and time in it, mm-hmm. whether you train it or somebody else trains it, it doesn't matter as long as it's trained properly and done right. Why would you put thousands of dollars into this animal and he'd be crippled in 3 years? Why, or less than that?
I guess they have too much money.
And some horses can go longer or whatever, but the fact of the matter is, eventually you're crippling this horse.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the thoroughbred racing, they break down pretty quick too a lot of times. And it's there's something wrong if you were actually breaking animals to do our sport.
Well, I know I can take a quarter horse, like the colt. I call him a colt. He's a 3-year-old I have right now. And I've had him in training for a 30-day period back in the fall. He went back to training this spring for a 30-day period. Mm-hmm. Why? Because he's growing.
Yeah.
He's developing. So I don't want him beat down.
Exactly.
And he's still not even in his back. He's still growing up, and his knees aren't developed. Mm-hmm. So why would I take that colt and I turned him out this winter and we fed him. I mean, he's my buddy. When I shake the bucket, he's coming. But
nice. Yeah.
And everybody's like, why aren't you riding him? He's just 3.
He's not ready.
He's not developed for what I want to do with him. Yeah. When he gets closer to 5, we're going to rope some calves and mm-hmm. we're going to have fun. But why would we spend all that time and effort? And right now we're doing a ton of groundwork with him. Oh, yeah. We're working on a lot of desensitizing. Mm-hmm. When we're roping or we go somewhere, we haul him. So he's getting all that training. And that's stuff that I don't have to do later. Sure. It's already been done. But, when you take a horse and you stand them up on pads and they stand there for hours on end, just standing there, not being roped, just standing.
Yeah. Why? You want to talk about the big lick a little bit? Sure. I know that's one question we do like to ask farriers when we're interviewing them for working here is, have you been involved in the big lick industry? And I'm sure something about that was discussed with you.
Yeah. I've never put that on. Uh-huh. It's always been I come up in the quarter horse world. So, I never rode gated horses. I've rode a bunch of gated horses, but never with sure. that. My philosophy is if you've got to do that, you don't have a naturally gated horse.
Sure.
Because they will naturally be smooth. Mm-hmm. If they're bred right and you're riding them for the right reason, why would you have to do that?
Sure.
They even make a plantation shoe that it's really thick and it's really heavy. Uh-huh. Why would I want to put that on a horse? If he's not naturally gated, why am I trying to make him stretch out further or break over or whatever they do? Mm-hmm. And even some of the turnout shoes they put on the hind feet, I'm just like, to me, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I know they come around the ring and they're stepping out and all this stuff, and I do know that they put chemicals on them and burn them and all this and chains and mm-hmm. and they go through inspection. But here's the deal: it's just like with anything else. If I know the inspector, well, mm-hmm. it's who you know and all that, and everybody. It's not a secret. I mean, why would we lie about it? It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you this, I'm an owner, and when I send my horse to a trainer, number one, I know this trainer. I know what he's done. I know what he's capable of doing with a horse. I'm not going to send him somewhere he's going to get hurt. I'm not going to set him up for failure.
Yeah.
That pad right there and all that garbage is a setup for failure.
Sure.
Because that horse could become a world grand champion walking horse, but what's he going to be when he's 10?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they stand in a stall, and I know because I've seen them, and they start them out with the small pads, with little small blocks, and then they build them up as it goes. The horse isn't even developed. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't load my kid down with a backpack that weighs 120 pounds and tell him to wear it every day.
Yeah.
You know, I always told my kids, don't bring in books home. What are you bringing books home for? We got stuff to do, you know. But it doesn't, there's no logic. Where's the logic? It just, to me, it's so black and white, you know. But
and it is black and white. And yet the denial is so amazing.
Yeah.
Like there's so much money behind wanting to keep this alive. It really boggles my brain. And you can't put this on and off of a horse. Right. It lives in it 24/7.
Key word was money.
Yeah.
That was it. You hit the nail. It's all about money.
Yeah.
And I have seen these things. I've seen when they had it up here. They had it up here every year, you know, which I haven't seen a walking horse show here in years.
Sure. Columbia, I think, is the closest one.
Columbia, probably. But it really is. It's money. Mm-hmm. And the price they pay for those horses.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. You know, I have worked for a lot of wealthy people. I'm not wealthy. I'm not. Mm-hmm. Look at what I drove up in. You know, I ain't got no money. And some of the people that I work for, I never see.
Sure.
So that tells me they never look at their horse. Mm-hmm. Somebody else is doing it. And when somebody else is doing it and you're not taking care of it, it's not good. You need to be watchful of who your trainers are. I'm all for a trainer, and I'm all for people working horses, but they need to be vetted, and they need to be watched. If you care anything about your animal, you'll vet them.
Yep.
And that's just, you know, I've got a lot of money myself tied up in this young horse coming up. So I want the best future for him I can possibly get. Mm-hmm. If I do that, if I do my part, he'll turn into a great rope horse. And hopefully I can win. I probably won't, but Sydney will win on him. So I probably won't. I'll probably just throw my rope in the dirt. But hopefully we can have a great future, you know. And when he gets 16, 17, he's done. We retire him. We get another one in. And we usually keep colts coming up. But why work a horse way past that age when they don't need to be, you know. And to me, it's great to have a good seasoned horse, but I also like keeping a young horse coming up and always keep those young ones going. And I enjoy doing more of the groundwork and the petting and all and messing with them than I do riding anymore. So it's just fun for me to do. But big lick is a big lie.
It is. And it's just everything about it. It's just wrong. So what are you doing after farrier? Because you've mentioned that you know, you can only do so many horses now.
So basically, I make my wife work extra hours now. No.
Oh, okay.
No. I take all of Sydney's check, you know. No. I build fences. We build little small barns. We do a lot of hay. Our hay production has picked up big time. And we're doing a whole lot more now. So that freed me up for that. And my dad, he retired, so we're able to spend a lot of time together and be in the hayfield and holler at each other and point, and you can't hear, so you're just, you know. But it's really it opened me up and gave me a lot more time to do other things, and I'm busy.
Sure.
I stay busy. So.
That's good. So Sydney's your daughter, and she recently started working. I mean, it's been about a month, I think. And kind of what happened in the family when you found out she was going to be going to work here?
Well, she came in and she was like, you know, I went to Horse Plus and they offered me a job. I was, oh dear. Do you even know? Do you even know what? No, but you know, I think it's going to work out great. And she loves it. She loves it. It's been a real eye opener for her. Mm-hmm. You know, she has got to see a lot of performance horses,
Right.
and be around it, and tons of rodeos and horse shows. But she's got to see this side of it, and that's a whole different avenue. You know, the rescue side is a total different world versus you've got a healthy horse. The horse is fine, no big deal. Her life at home looks easy compared to this.
Yeah.
Because there's no work involved when you've got a healthy horse and everything flows, and you walk into a clean barn, and then you come out here and it's like, what are we getting today? You never know what's stepping off the trailer. And to take it from ground zero up, that's a whole different world.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that's it's been incredible having her. Just having somebody at her age that has so much horse knowledge has been just a tremendous blessing here.
She's been around it her whole life. And, as she was growing up and I'm teaching her, I'm not a babysitter type guy. I'm a more of get your hands on it and learn. But I didn't put her with wild horses.
Sure.
She always had horses at home that were broke, trained, just pets. All of our horses are pets. And I never had anything that they were riding that was wild. Sydney, funny story, I'll tell this on her, but when she first started riding horses, I bought her an old horse, and he was probably, I say old, he was probably 16. He wasn't that old, but he was real slow. And he was a horse you just had to whoop on to get him to do anything. He was just so pet, And that's what I wanted, because a lot of times if you get a horse that is really lazy and you have to kick it, when people kick that horse or they're trying to get it to move off, they don't realize how hard or how soft to do that. Well, a horse that doesn't feel anything is what I call a deadhead, but he's just bomb proof. He's just whatever, and you got to manually ride him. So it makes these new riders really good because they have to get involved with this horse. And I love horses like that because you just do whatever with them. They're just big dogs. But Sydney's riding, and we're at a 5-church rodeo down in Alabama, and it's her turn to go in. And I don't remember what it was. I think it was like the 1-barrel class. You go around the barrel. And these are all kids that are like 10 and under. They're learning, and nothing happens fast. It's all, and sometimes the parents even lead them in.
Sure.
And that's what it's about. She's got this horse, and she's riding this horse, and bless her heart, she looks like she's on a Harley. And she's got her arms up like this in the reins, and I'm going, oh, please stop. Please stop. But me coming from a world of we're roping and we're shoeing horses and we're doing all this stuff. And I shoe a lot of high dollar calf roping horses because people know how, and they like that. But I know that area, and I'm going, oh, Sydney, please put your arms down. And her arms are flopping like this. And, she's like me. She's big frame. She's long armed, and her arms are going every which way. And I'm going, please stop, And she couldn't even get her horse in the arena. So you've got so many seconds, and if you're not in, they call you 3 times, you're out. So she didn't even get to compete. No. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. Child, you come from a family with horse. What are you doing? And a guy come up to me, and I don't know who he was. He was an older guy, and he come up to me, and he's like, he could tell I was frustrated because you've got the best horse in the world. I mean, he's whatever. And you can't get this horse in the arena, you'll never, we're going to have to go get a quarter horse. You put the quarter in for you to ride, And the guy said, just keep her riding. Just keep her riding. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is not acceptable. This is not going to work, because I'm like, people know me, and I've got this kid that she can't ride. Yeah. And we've been working on this forever. Well, he told me, he said, just keep her riding. She'll get there. I don't know. And we went to a bunch of rodeos, and I told her one night, and I said, and she would come in and her arms are just going. I said, you look like a chicken up on this horse. The horse is confused. You're confused because she had her reins up here. So the horse was feeling every time her arms were moving. And we laugh about it now. It's funny because she was just flopping around on this horse. And I told her one night coming home from a rodeo, I said, Sydney, you don't have to do this. If you don't want to do this, and I'm thinking, Lord, please just do something. We've got to have some relief. And she's like, no, I really enjoy this. I'm like, oh, this is not good. We don't enjoy watching this, And she kept riding. And the thing that really changed my outlook on this was she said, Daddy, I want to ride your horse. And I'm like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Because at the time, the horse I was riding he's a jam up rope horse. Sure. You back him in the box, you come out, he's wide open. He wasn't wild, but he was just a lot to ride. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. And she's like, no, I want to ride him. I'm like, you can't ride the horse you got. And he's half asleep, So, and she's like, no, I want to ride him. I said, honey, you don't have to do this sport. Just, you can ride at home. It's okay. I wasn't going to make her. I was like, we're not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I kept remembering what the guy told me, just keep her riding. I said, well, if you want to ride him, go ahead. Because I knew he wouldn't buck, but I said, she'll go for a ride. And that horse took up with her, and he took her to the finals in Oklahoma.
That's amazing.
And I would have never in a million years dreamed it. But that people say horses don't know. Horses know.
Yeah.
They know the minute who gets on them, they can feel that, they can sense that. And in my mind, I was thinking, we're never going to be able to catch her because that horse is going to take off and she won't be able to stop him. And he bonded with her and took up with her, and he got her into that next level of roping and riding. And, he was doing things with her that I would never do because I know what he would do with me. Sure. And I was like, there's no way. And she's like, Daddy, watch this. I'm like, no. And he's fine, And sure. that's how it went. But horses know. Yeah. And especially good, well-trained horses, they know. Mm-hmm. They know kids and all. And he just took up with her. And we've got pictures of her at the finals on him carrying flags and all and doing the trail course and jumping jumps and roping calves. I mean, he's done everything. But
that's so cool.
That horse took her there. Mm-hmm. And I would have never dreamed that would ever happen. But the girl that flops around like a chicken on a horse, that's Sydney. So
she probably not flopping so much when she's roping in 1.8 seconds.
She's not flopping much anymore. She's winning, but there is hope. So.
Well, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of curious. She didn't flop at home, right? This was a competing nervousness.
She come in and it's just like. I thought she was on one of the big choppers, Put your arms down. Put your arms down. Yeah. Now she looks at it and she laughs. She's like, oh, I can't believe I done that. You learn.
Yeah.
And every horse you ride is different. Gated horses, you ride them in their mouth. Quarter horses, you're not in their mouth. You ride them with your legs and all. And once you pick up on that, and every horse is different. So, I might ride one horse we have a certain way. I ride this horse a different way. And I'm pretty big on bits because pressure is a lot. Uh-huh. And I don't like a horse with a lot of pressure. When you get them in a tight spot and you put too much pressure, they're going to come up. Yeah. And that's a safety. So I really watch a lot of things with pressure in their mouth and all that stuff. And I don't want them sore mouth. So there's just a lot of areas there you really got to pay attention to. I see a lot of bits that are sold and you can get into that debate for hours. I mean, how many bazillion bits have been made and this is the best one. And we use certain bits and I like them and they work for us. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say what we use because I'm not advertising for bits, but I don't even want to get into that area, but it works for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to change it. Yeah. And that's why, and we actually order different ones for different horses depending on their mouth. Sure. And that's what we'd like to do. It's a great company and I learned a lot with these performance horses with that because you don't want that pressure. You want them to keep their head down and all, and you don't want this rearing up and mouths wide open stuff and tongue sticking out and that's pressure. Yeah. Well, you can't perform if you've got that going on. And I learned a lot with that. So we actually order our bits for our horses. They're special ordered and it depends on what the horse is, what bit we use, and pressure's everything. Mm-hmm. We don't want all that, I'm not trying to stop a freight train. So we don't want none of that going on.
You've trained them wrong if you have to try to stop them.
Well, I mean, literally, that the bit issue, some horses do better with a hack more. Mm-hmm. Who cares if it works? Yeah. And there's no pain and pressure there. Use it, a Basel. Mm-hmm. use it.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes. If they don't like a bit, some horses don't like a bit.
Or they've been yanked on.
They've been sore mouth and, and then that is, that's huge. Now, I will say this. I will not use one of the bits that you just buy at the store hanging on the wall.
Sure.
That's just the old straight bit. I don't know. Yeah. We won't go that route. Mm-hmm. But there's so much relief when you order these proper bits. And they do cost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell my wife what they cost, but they do cost a lot of money, but they're well worth the money spent. Yeah. And it's not like they're going to go bad. Right. You can use them forever. Yeah. I mean, I've never wore one out. So
we're not sponsored by Sundrop, but you may as well be.
Let me tell you something. If you've got one of these right here, you've got something. Actually, I don't drink these all day like a lot of people I know, but I do have one a day usually just to keep you going because these things really aren't good for you. I don't know. They are good for you.
They get you going though.
You know, everybody needs a boost in their life. Oh, yeah. We've got several coffee shops in town and we got some places they make teas and all this stuff. And I don't do that. You know, I get Sundrop. So
there you go. Yeah, I remember back when you were a farrier here, you'd always have one, especially in the summer. You'd have a cooler full of them. I keep
my cooler. I'll buy a case of them, put them in the cooler. And when you're working and you're sweating and you're losing everything, it replenishes you. But you don't need to drink them all day. I don't recommend drinking them 24/7. But it is good. One a day is not too bad.
Well, all the kids are into their energy drinks now.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's my Red Bull or what. I actually drank one of those things. Uh-huh. Oh, man. Let me tell you, I'm not cut out for that. So,
that's just too much for you, huh?
We were at a rodeo one night, and it was hot. And a guy had went bow fishing with us, and he had left one in the back seat. And he was drinking I think it was a Red Bull. I'd never had one in my life. Mm-hmm. Well, I seen it in the back seat of the truck, so I just put it in the cooler. And it was hot. We sitting at the rodeo. I'm like, man, I'm going to go get that Red Bull and try that. Because it was cold. It was on ice. Well, I drank about half of that thing, and I went from sitting down to standing up, holding the back of the chair, and I'm shaking and sweating. What in the world? I'm going to mess around and have a stroke. And my wife looked at me and she said, what's wrong with you? I said, I don't know. I've been drinking that Red Bull. I ain't ever been one since. We can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I just don't tend to drink caffeine because I find I don't need it. So, if you don't need something, don't do it, I guess.
I drink a lot of water in the summer. We drink a lot of water. But I do like something with a little kick to it. When you get drained down, but we go through a ton of water and Gatorade.
Oh, yeah.
But, we won't be long. We're going into spring here now. So it's really nice weather. And we're going to be just loving it. And all of a sudden, it's going to hit us.
About the time you're bailing hay, I think.
Yeah. It's like, man.
So you used to do square bales. Sydney was telling us you used to do square bales. You've just transitioned to round bales now?
We mostly do we still square bale a little bit. Last summer, we had a terrible hay season. So it was dry here. Mm-hmm. Hay was scarce. Half of our second cutting, we didn't even get to cut. It was nothing. The grass was just dead. Mm-hmm. So we just let it go. But normally we'll square bale several hundred square bales, and then the rest will round bale. The biggest issue is the help.
Yeah.
There's no help. And we don't have barns built for big accumulators and equipment like that to do it. Mm-hmm. So all of these old barns have lofts in them. So we have an elevator that we put the square bales in, but you still have to get up there and stack it. And you got to load it in the field, So the help is just not like it used to be.
So every generation complains about the next generation. But I really feel like from about 25, 30 years old on down, they're so focused on intellectual ideas and concepts that I feel like a lot of younger people aren't into the physical labor aspect of life.
I work a lot of young men in the summer from high school, which small town, everybody. And I have worked a lot of 18 and under for a month or two while they're out of school. And what I've noticed, and the saying goes around, if you've got a coachable kid, he'll be great through life. Mm-hmm. If you allow the coach to coach them, and kids have to have correcting.
Yeah.
They have, and I believe there's a proper way to do that. I'm not saying go out there and beat them, but,
right.
They have to be able to take that correction and build off of it. And a lot of that goes back to how they're coached. It's like young horse. But I've got several that's worked for me throughout the years, and they come back. And what I've noticed is a lot of these kids, they don't play, and they're not even horse people. They're just coming to work. But they don't play one sport. They play multiple sports. Mm-hmm. And they're coachable, and they're really talented. I've got one right now. He's not a kid. He's almost grown, but, he's got a scholarship playing football. And I tell him, I say, it's not from you playing ball. It's from you working with me. That's how you got your scholarship. I said, you got in shape, But that's those kids like that. Yeah. They go forward and they do really well. But sometimes it's hard for a parent to sit back and let somebody criticize and get on your child. Mm-hmm. Here's where I'm at with it. If my kid is out here, and my kid will always be a kid, even though she's grown, she'll always be a kid. If she's out here doing something wrong and Jason goes up to her and says, Sydney, no, we're not doing this, whatever, that's part of life.
Yeah.
And she has to learn that. So I think we need to let them get out and experience how the real world is in a safe way. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in throwing them out to some construction crew you don't know or whatever it is. And, we need to vet everything, but they need to learn, life's not fair. Yeah. And it's a dog-eat-dog world. And there's good people to be with that you can learn from and you can grow from. And another thing with that is I'd like to see more of these kids taught the financial sides of things, how to invest money, how to put money in IRAs or 401ks or whatever they want to go with, CDs. There's all kinds of things you can do, but I would like to see more of that taught. And if you want to get down to it, it's our responsibility to teach them. A teacher has them for 8 hours. A parent has them their whole life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sending your horse to a trainer. Well, that trainer's only going to do so much. After that, it's up to you to take it forward. And I think, we've got a lot of political issues with our school systems and all this mess. And you have that everywhere. It's not just here. But I think a lot of it goes back to the home life. Mm-hmm. And if you'll think about it, it all revolves around a horse because a horse is the same way.
Yeah.
Everything you do is just like dealing with a horse. And, if you halfway do your job with this horse, well, it's not going to work out. If you halfway do your job at work, it's not going to work out. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing how everything revolves around the horse.
It does. It really does.
I was talking and whenever we got to stop, we'll stop, but I get to talking. But I was talking to some people and I said, if it wasn't for the horse or the mule, what would our military have done?
They would have walked a lot more, wouldn't they?
Look at how much was packed in and they would pull the guns and all these things just went on over history throughout the years because I love the history and all. And it's just amazing to me how little credit the horse gets.
It really does. And people try to credit, the War Horse movie was made and stuff, but it's like there's so many amazing stories and they really are the unsung heroes.
They are. I mean, what would have happened if they didn't haul all the things in and it's just
just the supply trains.
Yeah.
Just keeping the supplies going. It is amazing how much the horse has advanced human civilization.
We have tried to help these young guys that come to work with us and usually they wind up at the barn. They wind up cleaning stalls or whatever. And we've had 2 so far turn into pretty good ropers.
Nice.
And so that kind of opened my eyes, just because they played sports doesn't mean that they're not good horse people. Mm-hmm. And once they learned a little bit, they really went on, and one of them's riding in pro rodeo.
Nice.
So
wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But they're athletes, so just because you didn't grow up as a cowboy doesn't mean you're not destined to be one.
There you go. We're going to be wrapping up here in a couple minutes, but I know that you've been out here a lot. You've trimmed probably close to 500 horses out here, I would say, because you'd do 10, 15 a day when you'd come. What do you think about the mission of Horse Plus, what we're doing out here? Because we don't get to see the nice side of horse life very often. We're usually seeing the horses that people don't want, they've neglected, they've abused.
I'll say this: it's always the people in the trenches that go unnoticed, because this is something that you don't get. Nice horses, you don't get healthy horses. A lot of horses you get are underweight. You have to put weight on them. It's a process. It takes a couple months. Sometimes it takes a year, whatever. I think all in all, what I've seen from this place grow is amazing, because it takes a lot of money. It all goes back to money. Yeah. It takes money to do this. It takes a lot of money to do it. I know what it costs to feed my horses. I can't imagine what it costs to feed that many horses, because it fluctuates. Your numbers fluctuate. Yeah. And you've always got several. I mean, there's always more than 10, and
usually at least 50.
When you're running 50 head, it costs a lot. It costs a lot of money to operate with the help. And what's cool about this organization is you don't just come out here and get paid. Y'all offer a lot more than just getting paid. It's not just come out here and you get paid and that's it. This is a really good place to work. So that tells me you've added on. You have grown every which way you look. You can't turn around here and look one way. You haven't changed something or grown. So that tells me, well, it ain't all in your pocket.
No,
because you've put it back in, and it started from one thing and it just kept growing. And that's what it takes. And this organization right here is amazing, because I enjoy being able to tell people when I go get a horse and they're upset because somebody's died or something's happened in their family, they're upset because they've got to give this horse up. I feel comfortable knowing I'm telling them the truth. They will get run through the ringer here. That horse will get evaluated. He will get shots. He will get wormed. He'll get whatever he needs. He's going to get x-rays. He's going to get things he's probably never seen before. I mean, and people don't realize what all goes into that. But when you've got vets on hand, you've got trainers, you've got people working, office personnel, there's a lot just keeping the trucks and trailers up around here. Keith, bless his heart. He's just never know where you'll see Keith. I see him in town. I see him here. He just pops in. But it takes so much to do all this. And with what y'all are doing with social media, that's where it's at now. If it were up to me to do social media, we go under. We'd be in trouble. I mean, we'd go under quick. But y'all can take this to the next level and reach people that nobody else would ever reach. And that's what it's about. And, it's like for me to be able to bring horses back from Colorado Springs. That's pretty cool. And I've been all the way to Rhode Island. So a girl that, wow, I won't say her name, but a girl that she actually adopted 2 horses from here. Okay. And both of them I've been able to take up there.
Nice.
So it all, and I see her horses on TikTok, I think it's TikTok, and she's feeding them, and then got them all named, got their pens, and it's something every day. But these horses have really done well, and that vetting process of adoption, that's a big deal. You want to get the right horse to the right person. I've always said pretty won't get you back to the trailer. So, and when I go look at a horse, I'm like, boy, look at that horse. Well, after I watch it a few minutes, I might not like it as much. I like the color, or I like it. Well, it's beautiful, but sometimes you're better. Ugly usually works best. But this place is amazing and what it's done. And from my perspective, is all I can say is I encourage people to donate or be involved, and because there's a lot that goes on that people don't know. And there's programs that y'all are doing that you weren't doing before that I'm seeing, and I really like that. And I think that's really cool. I think if a lot more people knew about this, share, because it only takes a second to push the share button. Yep. I've never been famous until Horse Plus, so you got to go with what works.
Now you're pretty famous.
But that was really the people that reach out and the comments and all, and that's cool. Yeah. You're always going to have a hater or two, but you know what? For the haters going to hate. And that's just how it is. And that's fine. It's okay. Everybody's got their own opinion. I don't care. I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. And I don't believe you are either, And that's just, I read a lot of the comments that's on the videos, and most of them are, 99% of them are really good. And I appreciate that. And the ones that are bad, you know what? That's okay. You're entitled to that. That's fine. It's not going to change me, make me or break me.
There you go.
I always tell people, you're not paying my light bill, so what difference does it make? But all in all, the supporters, from my behalf, thank you for what you've done here. Not only did you create a place for horses to be rescued and saved, you also created a place for my daughter to work.
There you go.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to work. It's a great mission.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Garrick. And you guys just stay tuned for the next podcast. You never know who's going to end up across the chair.